Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue our conversation about the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year, 2020. And today, I'd like to focus our attention on that film which was given the spy number 1032 in the Criterion Collection. This is from 1978, and this is from Paul Mazursky. The name of the film is An Unmarried Woman. Released in 1978, this is the film An Unmarried Woman, which is written and directed by Paul Mazursky. Now, this is an extraordinarily intimate portrait of a character, Erica, played with such grace and honesty and truth by the wonderful Jill Clayburgh. And it also stars Alan Bates and Michael Murphy in supporting but still very crucial and important roles with respect to the main character of Erica. And this film is one where we have a portrait painted in cinematic terms of a particular woman and her family life and her relationship with her husband and also with her daughter, and how that is suddenly altered and changed such that her life as she has known it is changed in a deeply fundamental and quite profound way. And this film thus charts this change and the types of feelings that she goes through and she tries to confront within herself, the types of choices that she is willing to make, the kinds of working out of ideas and of feelings and desires and guilt, and also a feeling of trying new things, of trying to be adventurous beyond what once was one's lifestyle, and trying new things because one's life has experienced quite a change. And so this is the trajectory, if you will, of the story path of this particular woman played by Jill Clayburgh, which is, as I say, a really deep and honest and therefore very beautiful portrayal that has many layers to it, that is showing us a character that is really trying new things. In many ways, the film is like a depiction of a character that is essentially thrust into a different position in her life, a new stage in her life, as it were. And because she is in this new stage, she is trying to essentially work out her feelings and try new things. And if things work out, that's great. If things don't work out, then she has to try to go on to something new. And along the way, we get these wonderfully quiet, intimate human moments between her and her friends, between her and the men in her life, and between her and her child, and between her and her therapist. There are some really fascinating character revelations that are given to us, the viewers, through some of the scenes involving the therapist, and so Penelope Rusyanov. And these scenes all come together, as I say, to create what is a deeply human and very intimate portrait of a woman who is entering a new stage in her life and trying to figure out her bearings, and also chart her own feelings and desires and work out those feelings and desires. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, and we are with her every step of the way. We are with her choices. We are with her moments of personal freedom. We are with her when things are happy and funny. We are with her when things get a little bit sad and confusing. And we are always with her, and we are always wondering what it is she is going through. We are always trying to understand her because, as I say, the film paints this really welcoming portrait of a character, Jill Clayburgh's character, and we want to know more. We want to root for her, and we want to see her make the best of her situation. And so this film, as I say, paints a very intimate portrait, but it also lets us, the viewers, join in and really get to know this extraordinary woman at the heart of this very engaging and interesting, deeply intimate portrait. This is the film An Unmarried Woman by Paul Mazursky, at the center of which is the extraordinary performance by Jill Clayburgh. This is An Unmarried Woman. And with this, my friends, this is the Criterion Collection release of An Unmarried Woman. Here is the Blu-ray. And I must say that just from the start, this is purported to be based off of a new 4K digital restoration of the film. And it looks really great to my eye. It sounds really great to my ears. And it's a great presentation of a really great film. And so I'm very pleased with this presentation from Criterion. And also I just want to point out this nice, simple, almost minimalist style of cover art design. But I really like this motif. This is a particular moment from the film, a little bit early on in the film, and I think it is a very emblematic and almost iconic moment early on in the film that shows us a little bit of the character of Jill Clayburgh's, or shows us Jill Clayburgh's performance and how she portrays this character, and a really private and simple and yet so personal and such a wonderful revelation of character. It's one of those lovely moments. It doesn't serve any specific function of plot necessary. It's just a lovely character moment that comes so organically. And this cover art takes that moment and turns it into this really interesting, almost kaleidoscopic myriad approach, which I think is very representative of the types of different facets of the character played by Jill Clayburgh that we will see in this film portrayed. And so I think this is a very apropos cover art design, which I really, really admire and appreciate. Let me say that the art directors are Sarah Habibi and Eric Skillman, and designer F. Ron Miller. And so this is the Criterion release. But that's not all, because the Criterion Collection release also has a number of great special features. The first of which is an audio commentary track from 2005. So it's not a commentary track that was recorded by Criterion, but it's a commentary track from elsewhere, from earlier. And it features Paul Mazursky and Jill Clayburgh. And it's one of these commentary tracks where you can tell that the participants' recordings were made separately and then they were edited together in one linear commentary track. So it's not as though Paul Mazursky and Jill Clayburgh are together in a room and they're talking, but rather they have recorded their elements separately, and the commentary editors have edited the the comments into one commentary track. And so it alternates between Paul Mazursky's comments and Joe Kleberg's comments. And I must say that this is a splendid commentary track, because each of the participants, Paul Mazursky and Joe Kleberg, really go into some very raw and quite honest, very honest comments about a lot of the techniques and approaches taken by the artists in making this film, because there are a lot of intimate moments in this film. It is a film that is capturing a woman in relationships, and part of that is capturing those intimate moments in those intimate relationships. And so it's really refreshing to hear the honest takes that Joe Kleberg has with respect to her performance and certain aspects of the production. And also Paul Mazursky gives us a very, as I say, raw and honest takes about his approach to the subject matter and his approach to the work, and also working with the actors and trying to capture a sense of a real kind of honesty and not a forced kind of depiction of these characters. And this becomes apparent when he's talking about aspects of depictions of sexuality in the film. He's also talking about this in the context of certain scenes involving therapist sessions, also scenes involving groups of people, groups of women, friends talking, and similar sorts of situations that arise in the film. And so this is a very illuminating commentary that goes into the craft of Paul Mazursky and his approach and his philosophy, but also goes into the details and the choices that made up the entirety of the performance by Joe Kleberg. As I say, one of the great highlights of this film, very rightly so, is the really powerful and intimate performance by Joe Kleberg. And so to hear her comments here recorded in this past commentary are very poignant and moving and quite splendid indeed. So this is the audio commentary track from 2005 featuring Paul Mazursky and Joe Kleberg. It is a fantastic one. But that's not all, because then the Criterion Collection provides us with more features. The first of which being a one-on-one interview with actor Michael Murphy. And Michael Murphy plays the character of Martin in this film. And so it's an 8-minute interview, and this is from 2020. And it's a very down-to-earth, honest, sometimes very witty and funny interview. If you know the character of that Michael Murphy plays in this film, and maybe in some other films from the period, you know that he plays a certain type here. He plays a husband, and there are some scenes that occur that make him perhaps be seen in a not so sympathetic light. And Michael Murphy is very honest, and he injects a lot of humor when he talks about this. And he says there's one point where he says, "I couldn't get a date after this movie because of the way that people saw him, the character that he played, and there was a lot of humor, but there was also a lot of let's say critical viewpoints directed towards his character and what he does." And so Michael Murphy tells us how he approached those characters and how he dealt with the public reaction, shall we say, to the film, in particular to his character here, and in other films that he was also in the similar period. It's a wonderful, touching, and as I say, down-to-earth interview, and Michael Murphy is a great interviewee, so it's really lovely to see him. Again, this is from 2020, and this is 8 minutes interview with Michael Murphy. And then that's not all, because then we have another interview with actress Lisa Lucas, who plays Patty. And this is another one-on-one interview, again from 2020. This is approximately 11 minutes. And this is also great because She talks about her working method, working with Paul Mazursky, also the circumstances with her getting the role, landing the role to begin with, and she's talking about the audition process with this and other films, and she mentions Jodie Foster, and then she mentions this film, and she mentions the character that she plays, and how there were a lot of really great real moments captured. And she talks in particular about a scene involving eating grapefruit at the breakfast table, and talking about her dialogue while she's eating grapefruit and the seeds fall out, and those sorts of real moments. She talks about talking with her character talking with her character's parents in the kitchen, and she suddenly just decides to with a degree of spontaneity, just jump up on the kitchen counter and just sit on the kitchen counter and continue with the conversation. And those are some examples of how she was encouraged to express a certain level of spontaneity, and to really go with that. And she describes how Paul Mazursky really encouraged that kind of artistic exploration of the characters. And I really think that's such a lovely. Those are such great anecdotes to indicate not only the working methods of Paul Mazursky, but also the way in which Lisa Lucas, as an actor, was really trying to give a lot to the role that she gives on screen. And it's a really memorable performance. As I say, it's one of the most important parts of the film, is her relationship with the Joe Claver character, the Michael Murphy character, and the Alan Bates character. I mean, they're all connected, and we see her reactions, and we hear her opinions and viewpoints, and we also see her character growing up as well, and experiencing her own awakenings in terms of boys, in terms of life, in terms of family, and that sort of thing. And so there's so much richness and a great depth to this particular character. And Lisa Lucas's portrayal is wonderful, and thus the interview that she gives with the Criterion Collection here is really quite wonderful. She also makes a point about how she was taking piano lessons from Paul Simon's brother at the time, and how that somehow was able to weave itself into the film. There's a little bit with the piano, and so that's a really lovely moment that she also gives. So overall, it's a fantastic interview, another fantastic interview, this time with Lisa Lucas. And then we have another one-on-one interview, but this time with author and Paul Mazursky expert Sam Wasson. And this is again from 2020. This is 15 minutes, and Sam Wasson really gives some great and really informative commentary on the work and filmography and career of Paul Mazursky, and also the concerns that Paul Mazursky had, and how Paul Mazursky's films are about characters and connections between moments, and how Paul Mazursky was really concerned with trying to capture the moment, and the films therefore are a collection of these moments that have at the center of them characters that Paul Mazursky is really trying to give so much care and attention to with the camera and with his cinema. And so I find these comments to be very fascinating. Again, they really give the career of Paul Mazursky's filmography a great perspective, and also they give the film a wonderful, there's a wonderful perspective that he gives with respect to the film, and putting this film in the context of Paul Mazursky's filmography and his concerns as a filmmaker. And so, and he's talking about the importance of the spontaneity and the real truth that is achieved in, for instance, the scenes with Penelope Rushinoff, the therapist, and how there are some moments that are unscripted. And he gives a great comment about how this is a film that is filled with happy moments and sad moments. There are a lot of funny moments and a lot of tragic moments and difficult moments, but it's all meant to reflect the myriad complexities and the varied richness of real life. And I love the comment he says in particular about Paul Mazursky's work in An Unmarried Woman, about how there is a lot of depiction of what he calls the psychological left field. It depicts the psychological left field without being absurd. And I think this is a great way of describing it, because I take this to mean that Paul Mazursky's film, in particular An Unmarried Woman, isn't afraid to go for certain extremes as long as they are consistent with the characters that are on display, and therefore we can somehow try as viewers to look at the films and try to gain from them, or try to identify in them aspects of truth in life. And so I think that's a really profound statement that Sam Wasson is making. And so once again, this is a wonderful, yet another great interview, a one-on-one interview, this time with Paul Mazursky expert Sam Wasson, again from 2020, approximately 15 minutes. And then we have an audio recording from, according to the Criterion Collection, June 4th, 1980. And this is Paul Mazursky's talk to students at what is described as the Harold Lloyd Master Seminar at the American Film Institute. And this is an audio recording only, so we don't get any visual or video, but it is an audio recording. And it is approximately 1 hour and 44 minutes. So it is long and substantive and robust. This is wonderful. Again, it's from 1980, so it's fairly close to the film Unmarried Woman, which was from 1978. But the entirety of this audio recording, this 1 hour 44-minute recording, is not all about an unmarried woman. It is in fact him interacting with the students in the crowd. He is answering questions, and the questions primarily focus on his approach to actors, his decisions in directing, what kinds of things that he considers when he works with certain actors, what things he considers when he's trying to develop stories, the relationships that he tries to forge with the writers, because he also tries to respect the writing process, the types of things he considers when he works with various actors. He himself was an actor, and he therefore discusses how he brings his own experience as an actor to the world of his directing. And the line of questions tends to be of that nature, although there are many other ways that he engages with his audience in this recording. He talks about other filmmakers. He mentions Fellini at some point. He also talks about An Unmarried Woman. Again, not for the entirety of the recording, but at some moments he talks about working with Alan Bates. He talks about the kind of story matter that he and the kind of approach that he tried to give to a film like An Unmarried Woman. And so overall, this is a great, another insightful look into the mind and workings and cinematic concerns of Paul Mazursky, the artist. And so this is another essential it's an essential supplement, because much like the commentary track, which features Paul Mazursky, this is also from Paul Mazursky's own perspective, and so you're hearing it directly from him. And there are some things that we hear that are echoed in the commentary track, but a lot of the stuff that we hear in this audio recording is quite different from the commentary track, and that's really great, absolutely great, and it's wonderful. I should point out that we do hear questions from the audience, or at least there are points where questions are being asked, and Paul Mazursky is then responding to some of those questions. While we can hear his comments fairly clearly in the audio recording. I must say that some points, and again, this isn't a Criterion's fault, but there are some moments where the questions themselves are a little bit difficult to hear or sometimes inaudible. And so, but we have to try to, it's pretty easy to figure out in context by listening to Paul Mazursky's answer what the question might have been. And so, but just note that sometimes it's a little bit difficult to catch exactly what the question is being asked. Also, again, this is a very, very minor point. It is long. It is about, as I say, an hour and 44 minutes. And he does talk about a lot of things. And so it could have been, I think, what it might have been, if it were possible, to divide it up into chapters, I don't know, in order to make it a little bit more easy to navigate, because maybe if there had been chapter breakdowns based off of the comments that he was making, then people could navigate and go directly to a particular set of comments that he was making. Again, I'm not sure if that could have been possible, but technically, if it could have been possible, I think it would have made this supplement even more of a great learning tool. It already is a great learning tool, but again, that could have helped us a little bit, but because of its length. But as I say, that's a very, very minor point, and I think the focus that we should focus on is the fact that we have this audio recording at all. Once again, another great perspective directly from Paul Mazursky, and this is very valuable. Very, very valuable indeed. So you have the audio commentary with his comments, and then we have this audio recording from 1980. So it's really great. It's long, very long, and very, very great. So, so check it out if you can. So this is once again the audio recording from June 1980, where Paul Mazursky is talking at a seminar in front of students at the AFI. And then that's not all, because as with all the other Criterion releases, we have the insert. This is also a fold-out. It's not a stapled insert, but it's a fold-out with pictures. And also we have the essay. So let's look on this side, which has the pictures and Joe Kleber, and also some depictions of art. And this is very significant to the film. And then we have the description of the technical details of the Blu-ray, details about the transfer, and cast and crew notes. And then we have the essay on the other side, which is called The Business of Being a Woman by Angelica Jade Bastién. And this is yet another really great essay. Please read it if you can. This is another well-written, well-directed essay that goes into so much. It goes into the story itself. It goes into a little bit of Mazursky's approach as a filmmaker. It goes into the author or the essayist's reactions to the film, and it really gives her personal reaction to specific moments in the film. And I really love essays when they do things like that. And what's also great is Angelica Jade Bastién goes also into feminism and a discussion of feminism, because as you may know, this film is often described as being a kind of film that is focusing on a woman and her thoughts and feelings and choices with regard to men, with regard to her family, and with regard to her life and her life choices. And this is often discussed in the context of feminism. But what I really admire about what Angelica Jade Bastién does in her essay is that she talks about this not in the context of a kind of monolithic unified force. That's how she describes it. She says the feminist movement wasn't a wholly unified force even then. And then she goes into different categories or subcategories of different approaches especially when we understand that the focus of the film is this intimate portrait of this woman at this stage of her life, and the events that she is confronted with, and how she deals with those events, and the choices that she makes with respect to those events, and the ramifications of those choices, but still how she deals with it, how she feels the feelings of excitement, the feelings of joy, the feelings of regret, the feelings of guilt. Not just about herself, but about how this affects the people around her. And this is the sort of portrait that I think the essayist is really is focusing on when she goes into this discussion of feminism. And I really appreciate that, looking at this film as a way of dealing with not just relationships, but also what the essayist calls sexual politics, but also not just that too, but also how this is very much emblematic of a certain type of feeling and vibe and energy that was there in 1970s New York, and this particular part of New York as well. And so I really appreciate this essay very much, because it gives us yet further pointed and clear comments about this, and about various ways in which it's possible, I think, to have a reading of this particular film and what it's trying to say. And so, once again, the essay is The Business of Being a Woman by Angelica Jade Bastién. It is a fantastic, extraordinary essay, yet another great essay presented in a Criterion release. So please check it out if you haven't already. You can check it out on the Criterion website, I believe. So that, once again, that's the essay by Angelica Jade Bastién, The Business of Being a Woman. And with that, my friends, this is the release of An Unmarried Woman from the Criterion Collection, spine number 1032. Once again, it is a very honest portrait of a woman who is going through certain events in her life, and the choices and decisions that she makes, and also the feelings and desires that she has, and the difficulties and the honest truths and the joys and the happy times and also the sad times and also the funny times, and everything in between that is a part of life, that is a part of something real and truthful. At the heart of this film, it is all here. And at the center of this film is the magnificent performance by Jill Clayburgh. This is an extraordinary performance. So memorable and so down to earth and so honest and so real, and just a marvelous, beautiful performance by Jill Clayburgh. Again, really giving this portrait, this cinematic portrait, such life and vitality and grace and beauty. So this is the film, An Unmarried Woman. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you once again for your time, my dear friends, and cheers.